In this exercise, we're going to work with JSON, and this is the first part of the homework. In the first part of the homework, I'm asking you to write a script that can insert JSON data into a database table. And the first step in doing that is to read the JSON. Here I'm asking you to read a different JSON structure. You can, as I mentioned earlier, you can follow along with this exercise and then just start doing it with the data from the homework. The data from the homework is a JSON file called product. So you can open product.json in the same way if you'd like to just follow along. I'm going to do it with IP routes abbrev because I want to show you an example without actually giving away the whole answers to the homework. In order to look at any JSON file, we need to begin by opening the file. We also need to do some imports. We're going to import JSON, and we're also going to import pprint because pprint is going to allow us to look at the object, the JSON structure in a readable format. We're then going to pass the open file handle to the JSON load function, and we'll get back an object. We can immediately check to see what the type of the object is, because the object's going to be rather large to print. Oh, I've made a mistake. I've forgotten that my data is in the data folder. You're going to need to do this as well if you're sitting in the project directory. When I load the open file into JSON load, I get back an object, and that's a dictionary. Now, I think it's always useful for you to look at the structure that you're working with. So when you want to look at the structure, there's an easy way. You can use the pprint function of the pprint module. And I usually find that indent equals 5 makes things, not terribly readable. Well, let's try it without the indent and see. Okay, it's a little better. So when we look at this structure, it's not quite as nice looking as if you were to open it up directly in the in your browser, because I'm giving you JSON files that are pretty clearly written. But if you look at this pprint output, I think you can see that the overall structure is a dictionary, that the first key in the dictionary is called data, and that inside that, or associated with that data key, is the dictionary routes. Another dictionary with a key routes, and that routes string is associated with yet another dictionary. And if we scroll through this data, and Jupyter makes it easy to do this, we see that after we get to routes, we now have key value pairs that show IP addresses and then values associated with that. And I want to emphasize that the homework is asking you to do the same thing. So in the very first part of the homework, I'm going to ask you to be looking through this product structure. As I said, everything we do in the exercises relates to the homework, so go ahead and start doing the homework. If you want to get started with this, you'll see exactly what I'm doing here. You can print out the structure yourself to look, and then we'll take these steps together to do the exercises, which should help you complete the homework. We just want to print out the structure in this exercise. Why don't we move on to the next exercise? We're going to access the repeating data inside the JSON file. Now, the data that we want for IP addresses is located here. This is only part of the JSON structure. You can see that each key is an IP address, and a value is another dictionary showing data for that IP address. Compare that to what we have for the JSON structure for product. It's the same thing. It's just structured slightly differently. We have an outer dictionary with 2 keys, and the second key, data, is associated with another dictionary that has product IDs and product data, another product ID and more product data. You can go ahead and open up that structure in the, or open up that file in your data folder, and I recommend that you do that. Go ahead and open up product, And if your text editor can display it properly, you can also display this in a browser, by the way. You'll see the same structure, and you can even scroll through it and see it has 6 products. So now we're going to try to access the data that we want. What's the data that we want? Well, in the case of product, it's this, right? We want the repeating data that has a product data associated with a product ID. And we want this because our next step is going to be to take this data and insert it into a database. As I said, for the exercises, we're going to do something similar. I'm going to want to insert this data into a database table, or some of this data, based on what we have here. But here's the problem. We want to take this structure, which shows that I have a dictionary with a key data, that's associated with another dictionary with the key routes, that's associated with another dictionary that has the data I want, and I need to come up with a variable or some sort of way to get into this data. So I basically want to just get to here. I want to get to this dictionary. In fact, I would prefer to just work with this dictionary directly. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's under Data and Routes. So I'm going to say, I've got my object up here. I just loaded it in my using my JSON cell. And I'm now going to continue this. I'm going to say that, let's say, I'm going to say ipdicts equals obj, remember it was called obj. Is it called data? And then routes. And let's see. I'm going to loop through the keys in this inner dictionary. Again, how did I get there? Well, I basically just said obj, and then how am I going to get in? I'm going to have to say subscript data, and then how am I going to get into that? Subscript routes. Now that should get me here. And you're going to need to do the same thing with the JSON structure that you see here. It's actually a little simpler because it's one layer less in. I recommend that you assign this referencing, this route in that's going to get you here. I recommend that you assign that to a variable. If you do that, you can think of this variable as just holding the data that you want. And I can right now loop through that and see all of the IP addresses that are the keys in that dictionary. Now, if this is at all confusing to you, you're going to want to review it, because working with JSON is an important skill. And this JSON is not terribly complicated. It is arranged in such a way that you can see the way in. The outer dictionary has a key, and that points to another dictionary. So, if the outer dictionary has a key that points to another dictionary, how am I going to get to that dictionary? Well, I'm going to say obj data. Now this is standard subscript syntax that we use with every dictionary. Obj data will get me here. Then if I want to go further, if I want to get to the value associated with routes, I simply use another subscript, and that should get me to where I am. So then if I say for IP key in D, I'm going to see each IP key. And this will work in the same way. That's what I'm doing down here.